Judge Grayson thought he was about to deal with just another clueless teen, until the defendant began picking apart the case like a veteran attorney. The air in the Los Angeles County Courthouse was thick, almost stifling. The courtroom gallery was packed, spectators whispering as the scene unfolded. At the defense table stood a young man who looked far too small for the moment. His hands were tucked into his pockets, his chin tilted upward with quiet defiance. 19-year-old Jalen Dawson was facing serious charges, grand theft auto and resisting arrest. But it quickly became apparent that the real drama in the courtroom wasn't about a car, it was about perception. Judge Walter Grayson leaned back in his chair, fingers tapping rhythmically on the polished wood. He looked at Jalen over the top of his glasses, lips curled into a smirk that bordered on a sneer. "You think you're some kind of legal hotshot?" he asked dryly. "This isn't a high school debate club, kid." A few scattered laughs came from around the courtroom. The bailiff, the stenographer, even the prosecutor. Everyone seemed to be in on the joke. But Jalen didn't react. He wasn't here to laugh. He had spent years preparing for something like this. Not this exact moment, perhaps, but a courtroom showdown. While his peers were memorizing sports stats or gaming, Jalen had been studying legal procedures. He imagined trial arguments in his head, practiced defending hypothetical cases, and absorbed everything his mother, a paralegal of over 2 decades, shared about the legal world. He had learned about cutting corners, judicial favoritism, and lazy defense attorneys. By 14, Jalen could break down legal arguments better than some law students. But to Judge Grayson, none of that mattered. He saw only another young man in trouble. "Let's keep this short," Grayson muttered, flipping open the case file. "I've got a tea time at 2. This time, the courtroom laughed again, but something shifted. Jalen let a small, almost invisible smile creep across his face. Grayson had just made his first mistake, and no one knew it yet. The prosecutor, Mitchell Carrington, stood confidently. His suit was immaculate, his tie expertly knotted. His voice rang with the well-rehearsed rhythm of someone who had said these words 100 times. "Your Honor, the state intends to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the defendant, Jalen Dawson, was apprehended while driving a stolen 2022 Audi A6, he began. The vehicle had been reported missing just hours earlier. Officers pursued him through downtown. He attempted to flee and was later caught. His fingerprints were found on the steering wheel. The evidence speaks for itself." The weight of his words filled the room. People in the gallery shifted in their seats, whispering. On the surface, it sounded like a slam dunk, stolen car, chase, arrest. Judge Grayson looked over his glasses at Jalen, then nodded toward Carrington. "Proceed." The prosecutor stepped toward the jury, shoes clicking sharply against the floor. "The defense may try to tell you this was a misunderstanding, that Mr. Dawson was just in the wrong place at the wrong time," Carrington said, locking eyes with Jalen. "But let's be real. Who runs from the police if they're innocent?" The tension thickened. Judge Grayson rested his chin in his hand. Jalen remained still, silent. Carrington flipped through his papers. "We also have the testimony of Officer Daniel Ruiz, who claims to have personally witnessed the defendant behind the wheel before the attempted escape. The arrest was conducted by the book." Grayson nodded. "Seems pretty straightforward." To most in the room, it probably did. But Jalen had spent too much time studying trial tactics to miss the gaps. He remained patient, waiting. Grayson tapped the gavel. "Let's hear from the defense." Jalen's public defender, Lisa Thornton, stood and looked hesitant. "Your Honor, my client." Jalen gently placed a hand on her arm, a silent signal. She hesitated, then sat down. "I'll be representing myself, Your Honor," Jalen said clearly. The courtroom froze. Grayson raised his eyebrows. "You'll what?" "I'll be defending myself." Gasps spread. Even the bailiff looked surprised. Carrington let out a short laugh. "This should be entertaining." But no one was laughing when Jalen stepped forward, because the entire case was about to take a turn no one expected. "The prosecution wants you to believe that just because my fingerprints were found on the car, I must have stolen it," Jalen said, his voice steady as he addressed the jury. "But let's look at this logically." He paused, letting the silence pull them in. "Imagine you're in a department store. You try on a jacket, maybe zip it up, put your hands in the pockets. Then you hang it back up and leave. A few hours later, someone steals that exact jacket. Would the presence of your fingerprints mean you committed the crime?" Jurors exchanged glances. Someone in the audience mumbled under their breath. Jalen pressed forward. "That car, the one I supposedly stole, was parked outside a 7-Eleven hours before the theft. I was inside the store with 3 friends. As we walked by, I leaned against it. The door was unlocked, so I opened it. A dumb move, maybe. But I didn't take it. I didn't drive it. I didn't even touch anything inside. Just a moment of curiosity. He let that hang in the air. Does touching something make you a criminal? Carrington flipped through his papers, clearly rattled. And while we're at it, Jalen continued, let's talk about the fingerprint evidence. Your Honor, was the forensic specialist who processed those prints called to testify? Grayson blinked, caught off guard. He turned to Carrington. The prosecutor shifted uncomfortably. No, Your Honor. So let me get this straight, Jalen said, turning to the jury. The prosecution wants to convict me based on forensic evidence, yet didn't bring in the person who actually processed it? No chance to question them? No way to verify the chain of custody? Carrington's jaw clenched. Jalen gave a slight nod. Interesting. Judge Grayson sighed and rubbed his eyes. This case was unraveling, and it wasn't even close to over. Jalen stepped forward again. Your Honor, I'd like to introduce an official statement from the registered owner of the vehicle. The owner? Grayson asked, frowning. Yes, Jalen replied. Mr. Raymond Whitaker, the man whose car was allegedly stolen, gave a statement to the police. But that statement never made it into the prosecution's files, and I think I know why. He glanced at Carrington, then held up a paper. Mr. Whitaker told officers, I left my car running when I went into the gas station. Some kid must have jumped in and taken off, but it wasn't the guy you arrested. The kid I saw was white. The courtroom gasped. This, Jalen said, holding the transcript higher, was in the original police report, the one the prosecution decided to ignore. The arresting officer excluded it from his testimony. And they expect you to believe I'm guilty when I don't even match the suspect's description. Carrington scrambled forward. Your Honor, that's irrelevant. The defendant was found near the stolen vehicle. Jalen cut in sharply. No, I wasn't. I was blocks away, walking home from the store with snacks. I wasn't in the car. I wasn't running. The only connection to me is sloppy police work and assumption. Grayson looked down, slowly rubbing the bridge of his nose. Jalen turned to the jury once more. The real suspect got away that night. Officers saw a black teenager nearby and decided that was close enough. That's what this case is really about. Silence, heavy and undeniable. Grayson adjusted his glasses. Does the prosecution have anything else? Carrington's face was red. No, Your Honor. Grayson leaned forward, speaking slowly. Case dismissed. Gasps, murmurs, movement. Half the courtroom was stunned, the other half quietly triumphant. Reporters were scribbling notes, some already reaching for their phones. But Jalen stood still. He let the moment sit. Judge Grayson was still gripping his gavel, eyes on Jalen. This time, the look was different. Recognition. Maybe even regret. Jalen met his gaze, then turned to leave. Just as he reached the door, the judge called out, Mr. Dawson. Jalen paused. Grayson hesitated. You should consider law school. Jalen smirked. He didn't need to consider it. He was already on his way. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed the steps. Cameras flashed. Microphones were shoved in his face. Did you know the judge would dismiss the case? What's next for you? How does it feel to outsmart a professional prosecutor? Jalen pulled his hood up and ignored them. This wasn't about showing off. It was about something more. His mother, Denise, was waiting at the bottom of the steps, arms crossed, expression unreadable. You scared me half to death, she said, exhaling. He smiled. Had to take the risk, Ma. She pulled him into a hug. You've always been stubborn. Across the street, Judge Grayson stood by his car, watching. The arrogance was gone. His posture had changed. He hadn't expected much from this case, just another name, another conviction. But he would remember this one, because Jalen didn't just beat the system. He made it take a good, hard look at itself, and for once, it blinked first.